Hey guys, it's Allie, and today I'm here with a series review of The Winner's Trilogy by Marie Rutowski. Okay, so The Winner's Trilogy currently has 2 books out, and that is The Winner's Curse and The Winner's Crime. And let me just say first that they are phenomenal. I'm going to give a non-spoiler review of the first and the second, and then at the end I'm just going to do a spoiler-filled section about my favorite scenes and the biggest shocks and predictions and such. Let's get started. So the first book is The Winner's Curse, and the main character in this book is Kestrel, and Kestrel is the daughter of General Trajan, I think is how you pronounce it. He is the principal general for this, the army of the Valorian people. In this society, women have 2 choices. When they become 20, they can either join the army or they can get married, because the Valorians are a very war-oriented society. They're big on expansion and enslaving the people because they believe that is their right, that they have won the people of the land whenever they conquer it. So, but then they're also obviously spreading themselves so thin, they need to keep up the population. So women can either join in the war effort or help make some kids. And Kestrel is kind of against both of these things, but she has a passion for playing the piano and a passion for music, which is a not very accepted hobby in this society because she lives in Haran, which is one of the lands that the Valorians have conquered recently, and they have enslaved the Harani people, who are the native people of this land. Well, the book starts out and Kestrel and her friend Jess are at an auction for slaves, and this one slave, Harani slave, is brought forth and he's presented that he has a singing voice and ultimately wins him. Well, she doesn't think much of it because Harani people are thought of as lesser because they're enslaved, and so she brings him home and she kind of doesn't do much with him, but eventually they start talking. But she finds that Aaron, who is the slave that she bought, is good at this gambling game that she likes to play called Bite and Sting, and so they play a game together, and they play a few times, and then Aaron introduces the idea, how about we play for questions and answers? So he'll ask her a question and she'll ask him a question and vice versa, and they have to answer truthfully. So they start to get to know each other. Over time, what makes this also interesting is that Kestrel starts to question the morality of buying another human being. It's easy to distance herself from this when she thinks of, he's a Harani, he's one of our enslaved people, he's below us, he's below me. But when she starts to get to know him, things get a little weird, and she thinks of them as friends, but he obviously resents her because she in a way is his captor. One of the strongest points of both books, these characters are wonderfully constructed. I know I say this a lot sometimes, but I really think that there's a lot of artistry and thought going into the development of all the characters, from the main characters to the smallest of characters that walk through. And I want to talk a lot about Kestrel because Kestrel is such a captivating heroine for this series. She's bold but naive all at once, and she's kind of selfish, and she's been raised with a life of privilege, so obviously she's used to having things a certain way. And so when they don't go that way, she's like confused. But it's not like she's a rude or bad person, it's just that she was raised in such a way that she's used to having things a certain way, if you get what I mean. So I think that really adds some truth and realism to her character. Kestrel, as much as she's against the war effort, she loves her father, and she loves her way of life to a certain extent. So they both have other priorities besides each other, which is great. The one weakness in The Winner's Curse, I would say, is that there's a little bit too much angst. Like when they start to get together, that's not much of a spoiler because, I mean, you can pretty much tell what's gonna happen. I thought it was a little too fast for me, but I thought there was a little too much angst. Now on to The Winner's Crime. So I'll be talking about things in this, and a lot of the good things I say will apply to both books, but I will go a little more in detail with The Winner's Crime. So when The Winner's Crime carries on where The Winter's Curse ends. So for me, I read The Winter's Curse and went straight into The Winter's Crime. For all of you who had to wait, I'm so sorry. I definitely liked The Winter's Crime better than The Winter's Curse. The Winter's Curse is great, do not get me wrong, but The Winter's Crime I felt was such a stronger book as a whole. So let me talk about this one. So I won't go into plot details because obviously that'll spoil things from the first book, but what I will say is that The Winter's Crime is a lot more political. We have all our characters in different landscapes than they were before, different places, different situations. Aaron and Kestrel are separated geographically. I won't say why, but it's just everyone's in a new situation. It feels very much like a political game of chess, and you get a lot more detail into the Valorian society, the Emperor, more detail into the war effort. There's a lot of really interesting things that you get to see, and one of the most interesting things for me was that Kestrel's in a very different place in the second book. She's a lot more in control in the first book, you know, buying Aaron, being in Haran and being in her own kind of zone. But in the second one, since circumstances have changed, she's kind of put out of her place of power. She's lost some of her control, and I think that does some really interesting things to her character. Last thing I want to emphasize is the prose. Oh my gosh, Marie Retoski is a gorgeous writer, totally exceeds the expectations of her genre. It is truly impressive. It is so fluid and figurative. She uses a lot of metaphor, simile, literary devices that just, it's so gorgeous. And what I really want to commend her for is the fact that even in the sequel, she keeps up the level. Like the bar she set in the first one, she even exceeds it. And usually action takes the priority in a sequel, but she continues to keep up the prose to that level of beauty, and it's just so, I can't even. Okay, here's just a little taste, literally 2 sentences. Spring pinched the world open, tight buds split along their seams and spilled out their colors. Oh my gosh, her description, it's just gorgeous and lyrical and lovely, and you guys will eat it up, and it just adds so much to the stories and the characters. And okay, so if you haven't read the books, go, and if you have read the books, stay for a minute while I discuss my favorite scenes and frustrations and biggest predictions. Alright, so, oh my gosh, okay, basically, The Winter's Curse I read about a week and a half ago, so that's not as much on my mind as The Winter's Crime is. So The Winter's Curse, I was shocked by the ending, yeah, but I really just want to talk about The Winter's Crime and gush a little bit. Oh my gosh, trouble with Kestrel and Aaron. I swear it felt like a Greek drama. Like there was so much happening. There was so much like almosts, like when they were gambling and he found out that she told the Emperor to poison the horses and get the people to flee, and she was about to tell him the truth that she sacrificed herself, promised to marry the Emperor's son so he could have his land back, and he was like, no, you ruined so many people's lives, I can't talk to you, and leaves, and I'm like, no, and then he comes back after freaking being kidnapped by the Eastern people, and he comes back to talk to her, and then of course, Kestrel's like practicing for her piano recital, and her father, she knows, is listening behind that false door, and he comes in and he's ready to he's determined to get her back, and she's been pining for him and wanting to talk to him, and she's ready to tell him the truth, but she can't because her father is watching. Oh my god, the pain, the physical pain I had while reading that whole conversation, knowing that she was trying, she wanted so much to tell him, but she had to break his heart and say she had no feelings for him, and him finally being like, okay, yeah, that makes sense, she doesn't love me at all, and leaving, and I'm just like, oh my god! And then it gets even crazier because she goes and her dad saw the whole thing, and you think this whole time, a lot of this other part for me, I was really like rooting for General Trajan and Kestrel to finally like bond the way I know they want to, but he's so distant and she's more distant than she thinks she is, and I'm just hoping that he'll finally stand up for her. And his allegiance to the Emperor wins out, and he tells the Emperor that she's a traitor, and now she's being sent out to a prison camp. I thought the ending of the Winter's Curse was a big deal, but oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. I don't even... Okay, so what are your guys' thoughts? What do you guys think is gonna happen in the final one? I don't know. I feel like she's gonna meet some people in the camp who are part of like the counter revolution to the Valorian, like the war machine, and join that, and then somehow come back to Aaron and they're gonna like have this rebellion. Maybe that's what I'm thinking. The end, the last page was so chilling. Okay, but when she gives the moth to the Harani slave at the end of the book, and the guard's like, what did you give him? What did you give him? And after like contemplating, she says, nothing. I gave him nothing. Oh! This moment was like akin to the last scene in Catching Fire when Gale tells Katniss that they burned District 12, or that there's no more District 12. And it's like that fire has been ignited in Kestrel. She's always had like a subtle flame in the background, but like she is just done, and I love it, and I think it's gonna just like, I think the third installment is really gonna hit the ground running. I'm so thrilled. Please share your thoughts. I hope you guys love this series and are excited about it as I am. Thank you guys so much for watching. Keep on reading, guys. Bye!